Welcome to episode 100 of the ROCC Pod. I am John Gay from Jagging Detroit Podcasts.
And I am Lisa Bibby with Century 21 Northland, and I am so excited for this show.
Hard to believe we're here, Lisa. Today we're going to replay a few of our favorite moments from the podcast, and this isn't in order, we're not ranking them, but these are just some of our favorite moments. First, we do want to recognize our two co-hosts who helped us start the show, Andrea Arndt from Dickinson Wright and Trish Carruth from Your Personal Jeweler. Both ladies made tremendous contributions to the first seasons of our show.
So today, from inspiring moments to bizarre experiences like a naked man in a home, you're going to want to listen until the end. We also want to thank the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce for all of their support. Shelley Kemp, Christine Perez-Thompson, Heather Zeller, and Jill Robnett.
Absolutely. Jill is always sending us nice notes. I know Christine's always excited to tell new chamber members about the show, which, by the way, is a free benefit to chamber members.
So if you haven't been on the show yet and you want to talk about your business and your story, our contact info is in the show notes and we'd love to have you on. All right, John, let's get into this. Where should we start?
Lisa, I think for all of us, being business owners comes with such a unique set of challenges. But when you actually do the damn thing and open your business, it is such an amazing feeling. We had Mo and Erin from Home Turf Gym on the show in early 2024. And I loved her answer to your fishbowl question.
All right, Mo, what day, if you could relive any day in your life, would you want to relive?
Opening this gym, and I know this is going to sound cliche because we're doing a podcast on our gym. This was an absolute dream come true to be able to do this. Oh, I'm going to get a little emotional. When we had a grand opening party, and this was just for friends and family and clients and just people who've known us over the years. And when I got to stand in front, or we stood in front of all these people that have poured so much love into us and stood behind us with trying to just, I guess, make this dream come true, and to be able to stand up there and look at them and say, "Welcome to Home Turf. We did it."
What I love about Home Turf Gym is that its owners saw a need for something and created it. That is also true of Siri from Kacha Thai Market. She was on last October, and she felt that we didn't have any truly authentic Thai restaurants in the area. I don't know about you, but I am absolutely loving Thai food.
I moved here 20 years ago, and I cannot find the food that is exactly the same as the taste that I growing up with. The restaurant, they have to, do some a little bit of fusions because not many customers know exactly the authentic Thai taste. I'm trying to present myself as the authentic Thai restaurant, so I can guarantee that the taste is authentic and the look of the food as well, because the presentation of the food, I'm trying to imitate the one that is in Thailand. So if you see my pad thai in the omelette wrap, so the plate that I use, you're going to see the flowery style, and it's more like a platter. So that is how they use in the local in Thailand as well. I got that from Thailand.
It's been great through 100 episodes of the ROCC Pod to get to know so many experts in their fields. And that goes back to our very first episode, where Jill Gleba of Gleba & Associates was kind enough to be our guinea pig, our very first guest. And she talked about the mindset behind money and personal finance.
I ask everybody this question. Why is money important to you?
I would say for me, money is important because money is a vehicle to purchase goods and services and all the things that I need in life. To me, it's a vehicle to achieve what I want to achieve.
You did a very good answer, John. There's three possible answers. They all fall into three possible categories. So the first category is someone that is fear-based. They're afraid they're going to run out of money. The second answer is more, hey, I just want to pay my bills. And the third answer is, hey, I want the freedom to do whatever I want to do in life. And you answered it actually both, I want to be able to pay my bills, but you also said, I want to be able to do the things I want to do in life. Those are the people that understand the purpose of money and what it can do for them. And there's an abundance attitude in the freedom also, right? So the reason I ask that is because how people think about money and what it can do for them, sometimes they're their own worst enemy in trying to accomplish what they want to do in life.
I love what Jill talked about in shifting your mindset. And there's such a lack of financial literacy. And we have experts in the chamber in all areas. We had a Jill Plamper on from Distinctive Framing and asked her about one of her most unique projects.
So I had a client bring in a full wedding gown, and what we actually did was we created a display cabinet for it. It has a mirror mounted in the back of the cabinet so you can see the back of the gown. It has LED lighting down the sides. The gown is displayed on a full dressmaker's dummy. There are shelves within it to display the shoes that were worn and the jewelry. And I believe we also put the Unity candle on the second shelf. And then the front of the cabinet is a 4-inch wide ornate silver frame that is held to the front of the cabinet using rare earth magnets to avoid any hinges. And then we also, for safety, because they have small children, put a cleat at the top hidden behind the frame itself that attaches the frame to the cabinet as well, so the kids can't pull it off. But that was quite a unique piece that your typical framer wouldn't have tried to do. So one of my favorite types of a client is someone that comes in and says, I have an idea and I want you to take, my little kernel of an idea and expand it and get creative and run with it.
I have to call Jill because I've got a project for her. There's a,
Okay.
I have, I mentioned this probably years ago and it fell at the bottom of my to-do list. There is, from all these different states I lived in, I still have my old license plates. I'm not sure you're supposed to keep them, but I did. And so I'm going to do like a frame and have all the license plates from all the different places I've lived. So I'm going to get with Jill about that.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, so you start your business. You're an expert in the field. Now what? We got some great insight into marketing from Davaughnu Banks of Envision Brand Marketing back in 2021.
And in terms of brand strategy, again, going back to that first phase and really understanding who you are as a brand, that's why I say it's internal. It's about understanding everything about your business, who you are as a brand, what you're going to represent, and if you're going to hire people, what the culture is all about and how they're going to fit with that culture. And then that story that you're telling internally then becomes an external story that you then tell your why, why you exist, what your mission is, what you're going to do to help change the lives and impact lives from a service or product perspective. And so when you get to that phase, now you're talking about marketing to a particular audience. And so when you get into that why phase, now you can tell that brand story in a particular way, in a customized way that's going to reach that audience with a go-to-market strategy. And the marketing aspect is really developing specific tactics, specific research, and understanding who you're really going after. And once you understand who you're really going after, then you can attract them versus just pushing a random message or a message that you think is going to work. You want to customize it to the audience so that they're going to be attracted to that message.
What's great about being involved in Royal Oak is all the history here. That includes the Royal Oak Women's Club, which has accomplished quite a lot, both locally and as part of a larger national organization.
Well, first of all, Royal Oak Women's Club is part of a larger organization called General Federated Women's Club. There are 1,300 clubs throughout the United States, and I believe there's 19 countries. There's over 60,000 members, and their main goal is to advocate for children and women. So we do a lot with legislative. Now, one of the biggest things that they pushed through was the suffragette, the right for women to vote. The government kept saying no, 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 and our president whispered in the ear of Woodrow Wilson, and he said, okay, I'll support you. But our organization, Royal Oak Women's Club, has been around since 1902. We started out as a study club. And then in the 1910s, they started getting very involved with the community. They wanted to do more. So they started putting in the parks. They worked with the city in getting the fire escapes in the schools. They spent 2 years working with the United States Postal Service and getting house-to-house delivery.
Amazing stuff they've accomplished. Thanks to Terry from the Royal Oak Women's Club for joining us in that episode. All right, Lisa, you and I are both dog owners. We've lost and adopted pups, both since we've started the show, both of us. So we had to bring animals into the picture here. So first, I want to play this clip from Jennifer McCallum of Firefly Pet Photography.
Oh, it came out of that volunteer work that I was doing. When I fostered dogs, and I love photography, so I would take pictures of the dogs I was fostering, and I noticed they got adopted faster. And so I would go to our rescue events, and I would take pictures of all the foster dogs. And I just came home one day, and I looked at my husband, and I said, I think I want to become a pet photographer. And bless him, his response was, duh, it took you this long to figure that out.
He knows you better than yourself.
Very supportive. And while I loved wine, working for a big company and the corporate and all of that, it never filled my soul.
Yeah.
And working with animals does that. But it's not just the animals, it's the people who love them. So I think that's what makes me a little different. You talk to a lot of pet photographers, and they're the ones wearing those T-shirts that say, I love dogs, I hate humans.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way. In fact, I would never wear a shirt like that because I think the humans are amazing. If they love animals, we have something in common,
Sure.
and I'm going to bond with them over something. I like to say that I photograph both ends of the leash. So I really encourage people to be in the photos with their pets. And even if a client calls and says, I don't want to be in any pictures, I'm like, let's just take a few. If you hate them, we'll delete them. Nobody has to see them, but you might really appreciate it one day. And I had that same moment myself when a senior dog was an emergency vet, and I realized I've taken so many gorgeous pictures of him, and I'm not in a single one. That gut punch on top of a gut punch, and I don't want anybody else to feel that way, and I can help.
I love that part about including pets and their owners and how she makes sure to include both, creating a truly memorable experience. A picture is truly worth 1,000 words.
Absolutely. And I got to say that last part really hit home for me. We were trying to schedule something with Jen to shoot Jules with my wife and me, but life got in the way. And as you know, Lisa, we lost Jules in November, so I'm really kicking myself over that. But we will be getting in touch with Jen for our next pup, Dola, to get a photo shoot with her. And speaking of Jules, her quality of life in her last year was definitely enhanced by Jill from Radiant Paws Pet Massage. And if you don't believe me, check out the story that Jill told us about one of her former clients.
I have a client that I've seen. Her name is Pippin. I think she's about 12 years old now. She's a white golden retriever. And when her owners first contacted me, they basically were hoping just to keep her comfortable. She's got a neurological disorder that really weakens her back legs. And sometimes she even kind of crosses her legs a little bit when she walks, or like her paws drag. And because of her age, there wasn't anything they could do with surgery or anything. So all they could do was just pain management, keep her comfortable. So they brought me in to work on her. And I started going once a week for an hour. And they brought me in June. And by August, she was running and jumping and playing again.
Wow.
They had taken her to their doggy daycare, and the doggy daycare people were like, we haven't seen this energy since she was a puppy.
Okay, John, we both love dogs. But another thing we have in common is travel. We've both been lucky enough to travel to Hawaii, where Kurt Pfister of Kurt's Custom Promotions spent a lot of his life. But back here in Michigan, he got to rub elbows with some of Michigan's rock royalty.
A concession agent that I didn't know who he was when he first walked in the shop gave me this 4-color artwork with a big giant bullet on the front with a couple girls wrapped around it, and then Bob Seger. And this is before when he got really popular. So Beatles and Rolling Stones, yeah, but who's Bob Seger? So we were doing stuff for the first 5 or 6 months. And then when Bob got his first national record, we ended up moving to a different location, but this was down in Ferndale. We bought an automatic press, and we're running about 500 shirts an hour. And we've done stuff for ZZ Top, REO Speedwagon, some Beach Boy stuff when they were at Pine Knob, because the concession manager for Bob Seger knew a couple of the concession managers for other guys. But when Bob hit the big time, we were pushing about 700 pieces an hour, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week.
You know, Kurt talked about how many hours went into that project. It brings up a really good point, Lisa. We're all so passionate about our businesses. We spend so many hours every week on them, but it really is important to strike a balance and have a personal life too. We got a great tip from Jordan Burns of Honest Insurance Brokers when he told us that he still dates his wife.
Jordan, you had mentioned that you love dating your wife. I am such a lover of love. So I want to know, do you guys have like a regular date nights? What does that look like?
My favorite thing to do, I call it overnight dating. It's when you go to, like we just went to the Cambria in Detroit, and you stay the night there, but then you go to the restaurant and then you go to the nightclub on the top and you don't even have to leave. And the best part is not coming home to your house. When you come home to your house from your date night, that's when you see like, oh, my dishes need to be done. And oh, it breaks the date up, right? It puts you back into being like mom and dad mode. So I try to keep her out as long as I can.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Mini vacations.
Yeah.
You know, John, we had a lot of inspiring stories on this podcast, and we've got a few coming up. But we have to talk about Christine Scott of Paul Scott Plumbing. Paul is Christine's husband, and when he got sick, she needed to take over the family business. So she went out and got all the certifications to become a plumber and took all of the tests, including one in a barn that she will never forget.
I had to go to the Michigan State Livestock Barn. That's where they do it. And so literally you walk in and you get a big whiff of what you're going to endure for the next few hours. And while you're doing the test, and all the while you know exactly what kind of work you're going to be doing.
And you are the only female there, correct?
There was one other young lady, and there had to be 300 men. You know, one young lady, and she was the only one that I saw there, came up and said, "How many times have you been here to do this?" You know, and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is my first time." I'm thinking, she goes, "This is my 6th time." I'm thinking, "Oh dear God, what did I get myself into?" But, you know, I went through it, had to sit on the bleachers for like 3 hours. And thank goodness I was nervous, but I made it through and I did pass it for my first time. And so I became a licensed journeyman plumber.
Yeah, that was a great story for sure. Obviously, family plays into so many chamber members' businesses, sometimes as employees and sometimes as inspiration. That's certainly true of Lindsay Madison with Visions Incorporated Yoga. She told us about how her mom helps motivate her clients.
About 10 years ago, I moved to Michigan, and my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer 6 months after that.
Wow.
And she had one of her lungs removed. But we were doing breathing exercises in the hospital bed. And she'll tell you about how I had her lifting tuna fish cans when she got home, laying in her recovery bed.
Wow.
So that is a really important and a key part of the way that I teach, is for folks who maybe feel excluded from a traditional yoga class. So mom comes every Monday to make sure that nobody feels like they can't do something, because, hey, if this woman with one lung and an oxygen tank can do it, so can you.
And speaking of motivation, one of the most inspiring stories that we've had on the podcast came from Bryce Sherman, a financial advisor. He almost lost his life due to a traumatic injury and fought back to get to where he is today.
Yeah, so our son was born August 18, 2022, and the accident happened July 1st, 2023.
Wow.
We were going to the state of Colorado to visit my father's side of the family. We get out there and there's a little swimming pond about 300 yards from the house. We decided to go down. We go swimming. My grandfather and his wife decided to go home. The only other 2 vehicles are my dad and my Aunt Brittany's car. My dad's truck, he's a construction worker, so the entire inside of his truck is just tools. So the only other option to sit was on the toolbox in the bed of his truck. So we drive, and I don't remember, but I guess I fell out. My dad took a turn, fell out head first, and fractured my skull.
Yeah, suffered a brain bleed down into his brain stem. He was moments away from brain death. They had to life flight him to a hospital. They got him in surgery pretty immediate. Had to remove half of his head like a puzzle piece and popped it right off, and saved his life. He was in a coma for 16 days. He was on life support for about 11 and came out a miracle. here he is. Said he would never walk again, said that he might be paralyzed on his whole left side of his body. There's some deficits, but definitely not paralysis. So
what was it that carried you through? And while all these doctors are telling you, you can't do this and you can't do that, what empowered you to just say, you know what, I can?
The only thing that I had to remind myself every day was to be better than I was the day before.
Yeah.
Because I had to live for both my wife and my son. My son being like 4 or 5 and playing catch with him. And if I couldn't do that, then like what kind of growing up would he have?
Yeah, Bryce's story really is incredible. It was great to meet he and his wife. We are going to close with one of the funniest stories we had on the pod. But first, I think this clip is really important. Inclusivity is really a core value at the Royal Oak, Michigan Chamber of Commerce. So there's been a lot of talk this year about DEI. It's a bad word to a lot of people. But we had a fascinating conversation with Paige Robnett of Robnett Consulting. She explained to us that DEI isn't about taking power away from folks and giving it to others. It's more about a rising tide that lifts all boats. And she had 2 great examples of tools that were originally put into place to help specific populations that ended up benefiting everybody. The misconception, I feel like, is that those in power are losing power to those that they're helping.
It's a total scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
And listen, we're human beings, so it makes sense. I fall into it myself, especially when things are stressful. And for business owners, especially small business owners, right, you have a lot of competing priorities. So it absolutely makes sense. The approach that we bring, Robnett Consulting, is we help leaders realize that it's not just about shrinking or what you're losing. There are so many examples of when you design systems, processes, policies, procedures in your organization with equity in mind, with inclusion in mind, so it becomes the default. It doesn't just help people in the minority or people who have been historically excluded. It actually also benefits people in power.
Mm-hmm.
So a great classic example of this is curb cuts in the sidewalk.
Okay.
Those were designed for people that use wheelchairs. So people who lack power in some way, shape, or form. You know who benefits from curb cuts? Yes, people that use wheelchairs. I do when I'm rolling a piece of luggage or pushing a stroller. Maybe you're pushing a cart. So many people benefit from that innovative design. Texting is another great example. Was designed for a group of people who are hard of hearing, and look at who benefits from texting in society. We can get really innovative, and it can not only help people who lack power, but it helps everybody.
So I love what she said, and I want to just take a moment here and ask everybody, just stop for a moment and notice, are you in that scarcity mindset?
Yeah.
Can we shift it to an abundance mindset where we can come together as a community, support each other, and include people? Just think about what our community could look like.
There are so much more that we have in common than we have in differences. And I think that's important for folks of all stripes to remember.
I'm going to cry. Oh my God. I'm like getting emotional here.
All right. Well, before we get too emotional, Lisa, our last clip comes from your world. You teased us at the beginning of the podcast, so let you set it up.
Okay. Back in 2023, and I am a realtor too, so we see all kinds of crazy things. But we had a realtor, Matthew Stransky from Stransky & Company, and you won't believe what he ran into on a showing. So Matt, as a fellow realtor in this industry, what is the craziest thing that you have ever seen at a showing?
Oh, wow. Make sure this is PG, right?
Yes, please.
I do have a bleep button if we need it.
I mean, I've had some really funny encounters. I've definitely seen some naked owners. You know, that was interesting.
Trish's eyes just bugged out of her head when you said that. Like Trish didn't make a sound or laugh, but her eyes were like, "What?
What?" Yeah.
And the rest of you out there don't realize this is normal for us in our workday.
Yes. Came into this house, Brighton, really, really nice house. Got the lockbox situated good. We get in, gave a shout. Anyone here? No, we're good. We're going, all through this house. And then we got to the master, which was kind of like tucked back in its own wing. And we came around the corner, and I mean, as naked as all get out. And luckily, I mean, the client kind of cared less. They're like, oh, like, I'm sorry, you know, like slowly was reaching for a towel. And I mean, I'm a pretty hard guy to embarrass, but I mean, I know I went completely red. Me and my client walked out, laughed hysterically.
I don't know how we top that. That's our last clip. Lisa, this is a common thing. You walk into naked people all the time in your industry. What's going on here?
Oh, you'd be surprised. You know, it's like we set these showing requests up, they get them, they forget about them, and then I guess you catch them in the act. And I do have to say, I have a whole new respect for people living in their home while they're selling it and they have to show it.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. I know you know from first-hand experience, Lisa. That's not an easy position to be in. Okay, here's the time. Get out. And remember to get out at that time.
Yeah, actually, I always recommend to all of my sellers, get out at least 15 minutes early.
Yes.
Because you never know, they can show up early.
See, I'm a perpetually 5 minutes late person, but I forget that a lot of people are perpetually 15 minutes early people.
So we want to thank all of our guests who have helped us make the first 100 episodes on the ROCC Pod such a success. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in.
And again, if you're a Royal Oak Chamber member and haven't yet been on the show, please reach out to Lisa or me. Our contact info is going to be in the show notes, and we'll be happy to have you on soon.
My name is Lisa Bibby, and I'm a realtor with Century 21 Northlands. I put the real back in realtor, and we want you to love where you live. Questions about buying or selling your home? Call my cell at 248-981-3610. And my website is soldbylisab.com. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Sold by Lisa B. Let's connect.
And I'm John Gay from Jag in Detroit Podcast. I help businesses and individuals build both audio-only and video podcasts from the ground up, like we've done with this one. The podcast world has never been bigger, and if you want in, you can find me on my website, jagindetroit.com, or on the social media app of your choice at Jag in Detroit. Lisa, this is fun. 100 episodes.
Oh my gosh, you are amazing, John. And just another shout out to John. If anybody is looking to do a podcast, he makes us sound amazing. And trust me, we got all kinds of bloopers and, you know, we slip up here and there, but John always just makes us sound amazing. I cannot say enough about you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll put the bloopers in a future episode, but
we should.
I do have to say, you make my job very easy, Lisa. I think we've been doing this for 5-6 years now, and we've kind of finished each other's sentences at this point because we've been working together so much. So thank you for all of your contributions to this show as well. You are my eyes and ears throughout this whole process. So thank you as well.
I'm like blushing.